The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, thank you for joining us today and welcome to the ESHA research webinar on the Genesis R&D Supplements application. Today we're going to be looking at kind of a 101 introductory course, so looking at ingredients, formulas, statements, and labels. My name is Ben, joined by Peter, who is our supplements expert. He's going to do the majority of our presentation today. Little background before we get into it. ESHA was established in 1981 as one of the very first nutrition software solutions. Today we have a number of solutions, including Genesis R&D Food, the original Genesis software, Genesis R&D Supplements, which is what we're going to be looking at today, our food processor diet analysis application, consulting services, and much more. As I mentioned, Genesis Supplements is what we're looking at today. It was released in 2016 and designed to help users manage processes, industry challenges, and meet federal requirements for the supplement industry. We do have one upcoming webinar specifically for the supplements program. If you have supplements and foods, there are a few Genesis Foods webinars upcoming as well. They're not on this page though, but the upcoming Genesis Supplements webinar we have is working with proprietary blends. It's going to be on July 31st and offers the ability to calculate the nutritional information for a variety of nutraceutical formulas. During the webinar, we're going to look at how to create a proprietary blend using formulas and sub-formulas. If you'd like to sign up for that one or view any of the past webinars, you can find that on our website. Please note, as always, this webinar is being recorded. All of our webinars are available on our website, and of course, those future ones you can sign up for as well. If you have any questions as we get going here, certainly let us know. You have that GoToWebinar control panel with that Q&A piece that you can submit questions. We have a couple people standing by, including myself, as Peter gets into the presentation, that will be here to answer questions along the way. Today, what we're going to cover, we're going to look at adding ingredients, creating formulas, and modifying labels and statements. And we'll do as much Q&A as we can, kind of depending on how much time we take up with the overall presentation that Peter's got. So we'll try to get to as many questions as we can, either from an individual basis or answering them publicly at the very end. Or, of course, if there's a question that's a bit more complicated or needs a bit more research to answer, we'll follow up after the webinar as well. With that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Peter, and he's going to get into the program.
Thank you, Ben, for that introduction, and I hope everyone can see my screen okay. Yes, so Ben really did a great introduction on what we're planning to show today. It's really I think a fundamental presentation on how to use Genesis R&D supplements. And there's a process, and if the process is followed adequately, then formulations come out great and CFR labels come out great as well. So just to refresh everyone's memory here, this software is based on the 2016 final revised FDA CFR labels for the regulations that will be required for compliance in January 2020 and 21. So these are all the new regulations. So in this presentation, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the kind of the key unit operations. There's 4. So the first is to create a new ingredient into the database. So when you're working with Gen Supplements, you always start with the ingredient, always. And that's really important because in the dietary supplement industry, as everyone on the call knows, formulas and products for commercialization are built off a supplement facts panel, right? So you kind of have that goal of what you want, how many milligrams of this, how many milligrams of that on the label. But in the software itself, you always start with the ingredient. You don't start with the label, you start with the ingredient. The second step is going to add a formula. And the third step is to then customize the allergen and other ingredient statements on the formula. So that's the third step. And the fourth, and I think is probably the most dynamic step, is customizing the formula manually. And you can do a lot there. So this is the open screen. Okay, this is an open screen. And really, the two big items in the software are an ingredient, which is a leaf and a capsule, and a formula and a capsule. But on this screen over here, in the open screen, if I click nutrient, what you have is you have 163, 164 dietary ingredient nutrients that are already in the software. They're placeholders in the software. One just has to enter a quantity in there. So you'll not have to type in vitamin C ever, really, when you're working with the software. So you just type in a number. So the way the label is created is you really have three entities. You have a formula, right? And then that formula is broken down into ingredients. And then each ingredient is broken down into dietary nutrient components. Okay, so there's those three kind of entities that you're working with when you're creating a label. I would say on the, with regards to creating the ingredient, and what you do is you go up to this upper left-hand corner and you hit new. And then you hit this ingredient box. To me, I think this is actually the most important part, the most important step of the four. Because what you put in this step, how accurate you are on this step, really determines the quality of the formula, the statements in the formula, as well as, and I think most importantly, the label. So just remember that this first step, one really has to be very accurate in its entry of data. So there's really kind of two categories, two buckets of ingredients. I would say one are, less processed, if you will, maybe agricultural, a powder, which I'm going to be showing you today. And then there are more composite, more highly processed ingredients like, say, a microencapsulated type of product, okay? And you really need four pieces of documents, or you need four documents rather, to generate a label quickly and accurately. The first, and I think the most important, is the nutritional data sheet on the ingredient. So that's the first document, and it's most always 100 grams, okay? So as we create our new ingredient, we want a nutritional data sheet. If it's more of a processed composite ingredient, say it's some type of powder or an emulsifier of some type, something that it has been more processed, there are other ingredients in it, et cetera, I would then get a percent compositional breakdown sheet from the supplier. And typically what they do in our industry is they provide ranges. And that way you can take that and then go in here and work the system that way. Okay, so for more agricultural, closer to the soil, if you will, ingredients, we'll do it this way, the way I'll do it today, more kind of processed compositional breakdown. The other documents are a product data sheet or product specification sheet, an allergen sheet, and a heavy metal sheet or Prop 65, because we monitor Prop 65 in the software here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start entering this new kind of a theoretical product, and you just type in the name, hit enter. This, as you can see, is this 100 grams. So this would be 100 grams on my nutritional data sheet, okay? So what you do is then you just start adding the dietary nutrient components, okay? So let's put in carbs. I see here on mine that we've got 0.2 grams. And what you see here, you put the quantity in here, and then you have different units, and you can choose your unit, whatever's on that document. And then here, this drop down basically allows you to choose if you'd like to put carbohydrates in writing in the supplement facts panel or down in the other ingredients statement. I would put it here as a pass formulaire, but again, it's your choice. You have that choice. It needs to go one place, at least, at minimum. So I'm going to start throwing in some other things here. So we've got polyphenol. So remember that list of dietary nutrient components? You saw that it was yellow there. That means it's in that list. So 98%, the sheet says. So I'm going to change this. So what you can do here is you don't need to worry about the units. The software takes care of it. So if you had 10 different ingredients and 10 different units, just put them in as the document says. It finalizes it, the software normalizes it at the end. That's really, really nice. You don't need to do any kind of conversions. Let's go catechins. Let's put some polyphenols in here. Let's go 80%. E.g. CG. So you can see the yellow, it means it's already in there as a dietary nutrient component in the software. It's one of those 163. And let's add, let's say it's got some caffeine in here. Caffeine is in the software. Let's go 0.5. Let's say this, there's some moisture or water. So water is in the software. It's treated as an inactive. So let's just say that 1 gram of this 100 grams is water. Okay, and it immediately shunts it down under inactive. You don't need to worry about the active or the inactive. Let's add some lead. Okay, so many agricultural products have heavy metals, so we'll hit lead, and let's just say 2 parts per million, and it shunts it down here as well. There's a new feature that came out at the end of last year where you can now add microbiological contaminants. So let's do that. That's not in the software, in my software database. So I'm going to do it. Let's go total plate count. And you can see it doesn't have a yellow here. So you just click it, and now it's part of the database. So let's enter our, let's just say on our theoretical spec, it says 1,000 CFUs per gram, okay, colony forming units per gram. And then it just immediately puts it down here, okay? That's a great feature. Let's see, let's do calories. Let's throw some calories in here. Calories are in the database. Let's just say there's 2 calories, and it goes under an override section here, okay? So basically what we're doing is we're creating a fingerprint or a profile for this ingredient, okay? And this is why when you are adding these numbers, it's really important to be very accurate, because you know, we could save this, right? And then use it in 1,000 formulas, and all those 1,000 formulas would be affected negatively if some of these were off, right? So it's really, really important to be accurate here. So I'm going to save this. You see this little red dot? That just means that this has not been saved yet. So I'm going to save it up here with a disk. And then the second step here is you go to this ribbon, okay? So you add these numbers first, then you go to the ribbon. So notes is where you can add any kind of notes. So this is a powder. Let's just say it's an agglomerated powder. So this would be a great place where you could put in the particle size distribution, 80 mesh, let's say. Okay, so you've got that down. So you're basically creating a log. Conversions, if you wanted to do, say, take the loose bulk density of this or some other type of density, you know, maybe a tap density or some type of density calculation to see how much space or volume this powder takes, it's very easy. So let's just find milliliter, and let's just go 0.6 grams. So just gave it some numbers there. A group, so you can assign an ingredient and a formula to groups. And the groups here are really nice. There's 2 functions for those groups, 2 reasons. Categorization, which is great because you can categorize ingredients, anything you want, you can categorize and segment out. And then through those groups, you can speed search. So it's very, very fast way to search and to compile your data. Okay, so let me show you. These are the groups that one has in the software when they purchase it. Okay, but you can create as many groups. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a group called agglomerated powders ingredients. Let's go that way. That'll be even better. Okay, so now this green tea powder is tied to that particular group. So say in the morning you just hit groups, you wanted to say, okay, look at groups and go, okay, I need an agglomerated ingredient here. This would come up, okay, and they would all be listed out. User added fields is more of a tangible, I would say day-to-day type field, and there are many different types. You know, there are 2 or 3 here that are now in the software when you buy it, but you can enter anything you want here. So a common one is country of origin, and let's just put in Japan there. So it's tied now to this user added field. Alternate name. So many times when an ingredient comes into a facility, they have a supplier, you know, there's a specific code for a raw material, but the receiving facility will create a new code for that ingredient, right, within their system. So you know, maybe we call it green tea powder extract 0.5% caffeine. Okay, let's just say it was that, or some other number, numerical number. Okay, user code. This is a code again that you could provide. So you can do alphanumeric here. It doesn't matter. There's no limitation on digits. Supplier, you can put the supplier name. X. Let's put some numbers in here. Let's go $60 per 1 kg, and you have a whole slew of different units. Kilogram here in the States is used the most. Shelf life. So you can put the shelf life here. This is really cool. These are the new regs too. You can add the scientific name or the botanical name. Okay, so you know what you can do here is just basically be able to put this on the label. So Camilla and then the source. So the software, you'll notice, will prompt you to make the CFR approved, because right, we have all the regulations in the software, the new regs. So if it's not on this list, you know, you'd never want to choose it, right? But what you notice is that these are the only choices the software provides. So I believe leaf is the primary source of this ingredient. And then if it's some type of extract, which it is, let's just say it's a 1 to 10, okay? And then over here is the organic percentage, okay? And this is a great field because you can put in any kind of number. I'll show you how the math works here and how it calculates, but you're basically associating 90 grams of this material as organic, okay? And I just chose that number arbitrarily because I want you to see how it affects the formula, okay? But this is really, really great. But if there was a formula, say with 5 different ingredients or 10 different ingredients, and they had various organic percentages, again, the software does all the mathematics, so you wouldn't need to find the final yourself via macros, Excel, kind of the old way. The software does it for you. It will do it based on the serving size and the percentage of the ingredient in the serving size. Okay, so all the math is done. It's really, really great. So with that, and then this right here is an archive. So if you'd like to not see this, say the project was killed or it was delayed for a couple months and you didn't want to see it in your main search, you can always archive it and then bring it back. So and you'll always have your data. So that's really, really great. So we've added these numbers. We've filled out the ribbon in the ingredient tab. Now we go to the allergens tab. Okay. Now this software is for the US only at this time, CFR. So it has all of the allergens, like literally hundreds of US allergens in the database. Okay, so let's just say almond. Okay, that this was, for some reason, it was processed in a plant with almonds, or it was contaminated, or there was some cross-contamination. Regardless of the situation, there's almond involved. There could be a potential for an allergen. Well, we could copy this over to the custom, okay? And then from here, you know, we could do some further customization. Made in a facility with nut allergens or something like that. However you'd like to do that, okay? And then you just save it. So you can see here for the ingredient, at the ingredient level, there is one page for almonds. It's very, very simple. You've got a database, it goes to the default, you can copy that default to custom and then make your custom changes. So anytime you use this green tea powder extract in any formula, this allergen will be tied with that ingredient. So it'll always be tied. And that's awesome for auditing purposes. That's really, really great for auditing purposes and HACCP and the ability to control allergens and prevent cross-contamination, even at the pilot plant level. So the customers are using it that way. So with that, then you go to the report section. And what you do is you basically get a very nice content report. So, and this is used a lot by suppliers depending on where you're at in the supply chain. So if you're a contract manufacturer, many times, you know, whether you're purchasing your ingredients, this is sent to your suppliers. If you are an ingredient company and you're working with a CPG company, sometimes this is sent to the CPG company. So it really depends on where you're at. But typically people are, you know, putting their names and signing and agreeing that, hey, this is the specification sheet for green tea powder extract. Okay, you can do all sorts of formatting here, things like that. So. Okay, so there's a very nice content report. So that is the creation of an ingredient. So that really the key steps here, let's go back to open, let's go to ingredients, okay? Go to green tea powder extract, and now you can see it's in my database, okay? So everything that I've entered is in my database. And so again, I could use this ingredient in 100 different formulas, and all this information will be basically shuttled over, or a better term maybe is embedded in that formula. So whatever you do here at this first step will then affect all the other 3 steps following, okay? So I'm gonna close this down here, and then the second step is to create a formula, a new formula, okay? These are the formulas that I currently have in my software. Okay, so I just go to new again, and then rather than ingredient, I hit formula. Okay, and what is really nice about the software is that it's the same process. It's like speaking really the same language as the ingredient. It's just that there are more fields to enter because it's a more complex system, right? You've got many ingredients now, typically. So let's call this antioxidant plus, okay? So an antioxidant product. So the antioxidant will come from the green tea, and then what I'll do for the plus is I'll add some calcium and magnesium, okay? Kind of a very common product on the market. So let's add our first ingredient, okay? Let's add our green tea extract, and there it is right there. And it's yellow, and so that means it's in the database. As you can see, some of the data, right, that I've entered in the ribbon comes up. So I click it, and then this is where the formulation starts, really, from a dietary supplement formulator regulatory person starts. So if I pull this over, this is Genesis is that you have these split screens. So you're able to see the classical formulation, product development screen, and on the right, kind of the regulatory function, okay? So it is a hybrid software, and that's why it's used significantly across organizations. It's an organizational one platform software. So it's very common in product development, regulatory compliance, quality, even marketing, okay? So, and operations. So this is really the start of your formula, but I'm going to close this for now. And so let's add our ingredient. And let's just say we want to add 315 milligrams to our serving, okay? And just like the ingredient, you have a choice of units here. Let's just say this one's in milligrams. And then again, you have the ability to go active or inactive, in the supplement facts panel or in the other ingredients statement. So we're going to do that, okay? And what's going to happen real time is things are going to start populating. And when you are able to populate your formula with this label column, because you're really only adding these numbers in this label column, you have about 90% of your label completed. And then you go up to these labels and then you finish it off. But 90% really gets done in this particular screen, okay? So let's close this up again and let's add, what we were gonna add, calcium. So let's add calcium carbonate, okay? So this is gonna be our source of our calcium. And let's add 700 milligrams. And let's go active, okay? Let's add magnesium oxide because these two are often in kind of a 2-to-1 ratio for the absorption of the calcium. Okay, and then let's do an inactive. Let's put in a flow agent or maybe like a bulking agent. Let's do a tablet, and then I want to show you how that is then put down as an inactive. So let's add microcrystalline cellulose. So let's enter it, and then let's just say in this tablet we'll put 25 milligrams. And then all you do is you go over here, down arrow, and then hit inactive. So what will happen then, it will be in the other ingredient statement. Now, if I pull this out, you will see that it's not there yet because, I mean, it's here right here under inactive, but it hasn't been put into the statements tab. We need to go to this tab next, and then it will go there, and we'll show you how to do that. So basically, you've created 90% of your label. And what you can do, you have all the 3 types of labels for 2016. You can do a linear, you can do a default to column. It's very, very nice to see how these look, okay? So let's stick with the tabular template for today. And what you can do now is then break down these ingredients. So what you can do is just go to these arrows and click on them. And what's nice about this screen, this is the formula screen, is you have the whole formula title, you have your active ingredients, an inactive ingredient, and then you have all of your components broken out. So you actually are able to see everything broken out in some type of quantity on your label if you so do choose, okay? The nutritive qualities will be there. So if we had something in the say we had an ingredient in the other ingredient statement, but it contributed a very, very small quantity of fiber, you may not see this, if you wouldn't want to put the name of that ingredient up here, but the number in their total fiber, the actual quantity would contribute to the total fiber amount. So the software is always prompting you on where you would like it within obviously the regulations. So let me show you a few things that in the traditional sense one had to do on Excel and with various macros and worksheets, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the label claim. These are the numbers that you will be adding in this particular screen, and that's what's on the actual label, okay? This is the overage. So if, let's say we wanted to add more overage for green tea powder extract, you just right click here, edit. And what happens is the amount per serving column changes and the percentage formula column changes. The label claim did not change, okay? So you still want that label claim, but you need more of it. Say it was highly, in a high temperature, it had a long shelf life type product, and the polyphenols were oxidized very quickly. So you wanted to add more green tea powder to obtain this particular number, okay? Let's say if you wanted to actually change a component on the label. So let's say calcium, okay? Say we wanted calcium to change. You just go to the calcium here, and let's say we wanted to go to 300, edit, 300. Now what's happened is then this actually changed, the source, the calcium carbonate changed, and everything else changed as well, okay? The amount per serving and the percent formula in the formula, the true percent formula. So again, the software is doing all the mathematics for you. You have moisture loss here. This is the amount per serving, which is theoretically the exact, if you were doing a batching ticket, this is what would be the batching ticket column. This is a true percent formula. This is the formula cost, and you can basically do the formula cost in serving or in kilogram to see that, and we'll go up here to do that. You have the ingredient cost, the batch weight, the batch cost, user codes, and then lead, percent organic, and then total plate count. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go up here and fill this out, and you'll see these things kind of filling out, okay? So the notes through the user code are really much just like the ingredient. It's the same process, but it's just for the ingredient. So serving size, let's say we want to do 1 tablet, and let's say there are 100 tablets in a bottle. The prepared amount would be used for people that more for people that are doing agglomerated powders that say need to have that reconstituted in some type of liquid or shaker bottle. It really wouldn't be used for a tablet, but in this section over here, you can actually provide instructions using this function. Number of containers. Let's say this was a pre-campaign run for someone. Or yourself, you wanted just to see, hey, before we actually do a large, 250,000 bottle run, let's run 2,000 and see how the formula as well as the packaging goes. So 2,000, the cost per unit, you can do it in serving here, okay? Formula cost per serving, or in most cases, people do in kilogram, you can do both, okay? And then again, target percentage is the organic. So what you can do here is, this is basically the organic percentage for the formula, okay? And I'm gonna go down here, and this is the column for lead. So basically we put in some lead for the green tea powder, and if I go down here, it says you're out by 0.1 ppm. So it basically is telling you, that you need to do something at this point. So it's very nice. It's kind of a, let's call it a formulation or product development alert. And then here, for the organic, it says it's less than the percent target organic, because the percent target for the formula is 100, and it's 90% based on what we have provided. So again, to just show you, if we went 50% organic, then it will recalculate. Okay, so now it meets the 50% target. And then this is this is really for internal use, but it's basically saying we have 308.2 CFUs. If I had put in a spec of say 1,000 CFUs per gram max, then this would have been green. I didn't do that early on. but I just wanted to show you that there is now an ability to do that, okay? And then we can archive it. So I'm going to save this. And then what we do is we go to the Statements tab. And this is the third step. So it's basically saving the different components, the allergen and the other ingredients. So here we have two things on this screen. Basically go to this allergens area, and it tells me, I put my cursor on here and it says it comes from the green tea powder. And then I hit plus, copy, and then now, as you can see, now it's in the allergens area. And then here, the red are the active and the blue are the inactive, okay? So I could shoot over the blue where I would want it. I definitely want cellulose on the other ingredients. However, a lot of big companies now are putting one or two of their very actives ingredients as well in the other ingredient statement. And the theory behind that, from my discussions with many of them, and it's very industry known, is that people read a book left to right. So when they're going down the shelf or they're on the website or on a website and they say they want something with green tea powder in it, the eye catches it here first and then they go here second, okay? So I could do this and I could do that. And I could bring it. So you can have it both places now, okay? So that is the third step, the statement. All right, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the last step, which is the label step. And this, I think, is actually the most dynamic area of the software. Okay, and what you're able to do, what you're able to manually change, and what's nice is the CFRs are built into the software. Okay, so it gives you a path or a guide, a trail kind of up to the label mountaintop. Okay, so what you're doing here is you have this scroll bar and just some kind of big picture kind of stuff. The font size is the smallest legal font size as per the dimensions of the label, okay? You can change the dimensions here. Everything, as you can see, you've got this 664, which is everyone in the dietary supplement industry knows that. So you can use these up here. It has all the fonts, typically in a Microsoft Office suite. I typically use this to change the dimensions. Then what I do is I go up to here and I go up to this serving size area and I hit the down arrow, and this is this area here, okay? And it gives you the 5 or 6 areas or things that you can have on the label in this specific segment of the label. So you could take off that weight. If we had a prepared weight, it would be on there. You can include the servings by container. You can take them off. We right now have an abbreviated measure. I'll uncheck that and it should be tablet now. So the whole thing. Okay, so these are all CFRs. Then what's nice is you can hit this override box. So let's just say you didn't need a tablet. You wanted a stick pack. Okay, and stick pack currently is not in this list. You can do any kind of formatting, packaging formatting you'd like. So we could go 1 pack, okay? And you can make further changes at the amount and the servings per container, et cetera, et cetera. So this over here is this area here. I then go over to the header area, okay? And that's this area right here. So the first thing you see is it's showing an amount in the header, okay? I can also show the column header title, the amount per stick pack, or I can use stick pack or amount per serving here. Here's amount per serving, amount per stick pack. So you have a choice. And then you can move these left, right, and center. So let's just get both of these to center there. So you can move these. I'll do right here so you can see a move. So these can move. And then the software has all 4 of the daily values, okay? It defaults, so here are the daily values. It defaults to the adult DV value. However, you can add as many as you want to the label. So we're on adult because it defaults to adult. What you can do then, if this was the DV that you wanted, you move over here to the header text, go to the down arrow, and then here are the 5 or 6 more descriptive ways that you can say %DV adult, and that's by far the most common. So it's very, very easy. You just check what profile you want, profile DV you want, you go to the right, and then you have kind of some options of how to express this a little bit more with more detail. Okay, so then that's this side of the screen. Then what I think is really quite a dynamic part of the software is going right into the label. Okay, so what we can do is literally go into what we want to change, and the regulations will pop up. Okay, so if we're here and say I wanted to change something with green, or show some things on green tea powder extract, I just click it, and then what happens, this pop-up box pops up. And think of this as like a CFR box, okay? It's basically telling you these are the things that can be on your label with this ingredient, basically. So you could change the name if you wanted. You could show a polyphenol. Let's just show all the polyphenols. You could do that. You could promote all the polyphenols, which means give them their own line. And you can see that you can't promote carbohydrates. You could promote caffeine, so you can give them their own line. But let's go back to show. And then what I'm going to do is show you how we can do the amounts. So you could show them and then show inline. You could show on a separate line. And then what most people do is they show with the amounts. So basically it allows you to do all of those things that are within compliance of the new regulations starting in January 2020, okay? Then down here, what you can do is you can put the herbal properties. So if you're involved with any kind of herbal manufacturing or a commercialization, you could put the Latin or scientific name, the source, and then the concentration. And then these little arrows right here, you can change the order. The new regs say you can change the order. So you can change these here. So you get a really solid, very clean label that communicates the product to the consumer, okay? Now, some other things you can do. So for instance, say you didn't want to have 2 separate lines here. You didn't want to have calcium or calcium carbonate. This is the source, obviously. So I check it, and let's just say I want to not show calcium carbonate. And then I go to calcium, and I hit that, and then I say, this is how it's typically done, as calcium carbonate. And I could do the same thing here for magnesium. So I could magnesium oxide, I could unshow it. I could go to magnesium here. Okay, so there's many, many different things that one can do, change, and format the label. Okay, so there's a lot of great functions in the label section, which is really kind of it is definitely the last step. And I will show you how to, what you can do. You can send these things, but there's also, and we'll, like as Ben mentioned, there will be a webinar in July about proprietary formulas. And this is great function for proprietary formulas, this software. So you can add a formula within a formula. So I could actually add a proprietary formula to this very easily. Okay, so then the last step, let me save this, is this last tab, and it's a reports tab. So just like the ingredient, you get a report. This is a content and a calculated report on this report, but you're also able to provide for a label. So this is your content calculation report, and you can email it, you can export it, you can do it in a modifiable vector PDF, you could send it as an image file in various formats. JPEG is very, very common. So very easy to communicate this information out internally to the organization. So I think with that, we've gone over the 4 steps. Again, the 4 steps are to create a new ingredient, to create the formula, okay, to modify the statements on the formula, okay, and then create the label. And if one does that in those steps and is really, really accurate on the first step, then it's very easy to generate CFR compliant labels for dietary supplements. And I think that's it, Ben.
Perfect, Peter. Thank you so much. That was a great overview of the application and what it can do and how you can get to those compliant labels. If you're like me and you feel like you need even a little more training, obviously our webinars are fantastic overviews, but we do have training available as well if you want a couple of days to sit down with our trainers and go over everything the program can do. And an in-depth look at regulations as well. We do have a supplement-specific training coming up. It's going to be November 13th and 14th in our Oak Brook, Illinois location. If you'd like to sign up for that or look at our full schedule of training, you can go to our website to find that. We're going to get into just a couple of questions. I think we only have time for about 2 questions. If we don't get to your question, or if you have anything else as you move forward, go ahead and reach out to us. If you want to look at the supplements application or adding licenses, anything with sales, you can reach out to our sales team. Or of course, our technical support team is always available to answer questions and help out along the way of using the program. And of course, we have those helpful resources at the bottom, our LinkedIn page, our blog, our e-newsletter. We have the e-learning center as well. All of that is available for additional information if you ever need any help. So going into those, I mentioned we have 2 questions we're going to answer. Question number 1, Peter, what if an incoming raw material uses more than one source, so more than one part of the plant? How would you enter that in as an ingredient?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I think as someone that did that in the past, I would be very, very careful. So for instance, if it was a green tea powder, I would ask the suppliers to get basically the same source and from the very front end. And the reason why is that the polyphenol level will be very different. So if it's coming from the fruit, if it's coming from the leaf, it doesn't really matter. So my first kind of thought would be try to get each ingredient coming from the same exact source before you're kind of intermingling those ingredients.
Perfect. Thank you for that answer. And then our second question, what if our ingredient comes from multiple vendors or suppliers?
Very good question. So most people are using the software, and it's very typical. So if we had this green tea powder extract and say it was coming from 3 different suppliers, an organization, a contract manufacturing organization, any type of organization involved in manufacturing or even in the marketing will have a specification. So what I would basically say is, if you don't have an internal spec for this ingredient, you need to talk with your 3 suppliers and determine a spec. So what is the minimum quantity of polyphenols? What is the maximum level of caffeine? And agree with those particular suppliers. And then basically based on that, you can then bring the ingredients in, because that is now your spec within Genesis R&D Supplements. So rather than working off different specifications, agree upon a range, and typically that can be done very, very easily. it's just a matter of agreeing on that range. So.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and thank you all for joining us today. Again, if you have any additional questions, always reach out to us, and we're always here to help. Thank you, and have a great day.